BBC Radio Oxford News. It's 3 minutes.
On the 14th of June last year, Alemu Tebeje was awoken by a panicked phone call from a friend. He wanted to know if Alemu was safe. Alemu lives 1 block away from Grenfell Tower. It was a night which would become etched in Alemu's mind. And the whole of the UK, 71 men, women and children were killed when a blaze engulfed the block of flats. Now, Alemu, originally from Ethiopia, has written a poem in tribute to his friends who died that day. It's part of a collection called Poems for Grenfell, which is published here in Oxford later this month. We'll speak to its editor in a moment, but first, this is Alemu's story.
ሐሽምም ይጣራል የባለቤቱም ድምጽ ይጣራል የሶስት ሐሽም calling Hashim's wife calling Hashim's 3 children calling look, the fire consumed a building, now it is consuming me with all the burning voice of the dead, old people, young people.
Take me back to the 14th of June last year.
I was really in deep sleep, and a friend of mine called me from Hackney late to make sure that I'm okay. When I looked outside through the window, the road was overcrowded with cars, fire, a lot of people and so on. So I went out, and really the building was burning down. It's just at my side. It's so shocking for me, and still it's shocking. And actually, I know few of the victims at personal level, and most of the other by face. And what was going in my mind at that time is thinking of those people, and it's really shocking.
Does it haunt you?
Of course, yeah. I think it's my past encounters with them in the neighborhood, at the bus stop, at the train station, on the street, and so on. I recur vividly in my mind from time to time. And whenever I watch their picture on news, on tele, and it's just haunts me.
Alemu, tell me about those people that you lost, the ones that perhaps you knew the best.
The Hashims, the one who perished consumed by that fire with his 3 children and wife. We say hello to each other. We knew to each other. ማርኮም አለ ይጣራል የወንዶች ሴቶች ማውቃቸው ሁሉ ድምጻቸው ይሰማል ማርኮ calling boys and girls, everyone I used to see, Zainab calling and say hello to at the bus stop, Nura calling boys swailing into their twisted mobiles, Hania and Isra calling above the stairs and the smoke. I bear witness to their disappearance. Oh, burning souls have burning voice. Let me be their guarantee of truth.
How will you remember them and everybody else that you knew and you were familiar with and you knew by face?
Especially of the victims, most of, at least more than 10 plus victims are from my community. I'm originally from Ethiopia. And those people are ran away from the persecution in their home country. And now they're consumed by fire. This is very sad. It's tragic. And I heard about the last movement of a lot of our community members. I heard, for instance, that the Hashim's wife was on telephone. At the last minute, she was on telephone just asking her family member to pray for asking them to pray for their survival, and I heard such horrifying, such terrible stories. So when I look at the building, it reminds me all this. It reminds me the final desperate moment of the victims, to be honest.
Will the community around Grenfell ever be the same again?
I don't know, really. I don't know. This affects a lot of families. This affects the whole community, and it's very hard to rebuild the trust with the local authority and the government itself. It will take time to build that, to bring back that trust. የት ነው መኖሪያ ቤት ፍትህ ያለው ብለው ሁሌ ይጠይቃሉ። የኑራን ቤተሰብ ድምጻቸው ይጮሃል። They want to know why it burned down in minutes like a matchbox. And where will I find justice and a home for Noura's family of boys? Khadija's family of boys, for Malaka's boys, and Jessica's and Tuku's, for Brooke and his mother's voice, and Alice's voice, little Isaac, calling, 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 calling.
The Voices of Grenfell Tower by Alemu Tebeje. It's part of the collection Poems for Grenfell Tower, which is published here in Oxford later this month. The anthology is the idea of Rip Bulkeley, who joins me in the studio right now. I saw you take Alemu reciting his poem, took your breath away.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Rip, are you okay?
I've heard him read it before, but this was particularly moving when he read the English himself instead of his translator. He and his translator were in Oxford in January at a little poetry reading in Pembroke College. No, it's not. I think of his poem as a sort of keystone in the arch of poems that make in the book. But there are several others from people very closely connected with the event.
Well, tell me how you met Alemu.
Well, simply through the book, through calling for poems. I emailed as many people as I could, obviously, and there are many ways to do that. Although I know that just my rather amateur efforts mean that lots of poets in Britain probably didn't hear about it. But one thing I did was to take a little poster asking for poems to the area around Grenfell Tower, and I simply put it up next to the memorial walls that are there on the motorway pillars and on outside churches and things all around. And so I could do that, and I think I got several people sending poems that way.
A lot of people from Oxfordshire that commute into London would remember Grenfell Tower before the fire as it was, and of course now as it stands, it's a haunting reminder of what happened on the 14th of June. You've been to the site recently.
Yes, I try to go to the monthly silent walk, which is the subject of one of the poems in the book by a poet who also has been going to them ever since they started. And so it is indeed very haunting. And of course we hear about the event and we hear about the aftermath from people who are very, very well informed, like our firefighter poet, Ricky Nuttall, who's a marvellous person. and he's written a splendid poem about what it was like for him that night in the tower.
It's unimaginable, isn't it, really?
Well, I don't think it's entirely unimaginable. Poetry will do the best it can. But then you do get people who are writing from a distance. I mean, we have an Italian poem by someone who is talking about meeting the young Italian architects on the plane. And she is, like me, just seeing the event on television and moved by it and knowing or having met just very briefly this young couple and talking about their being shown, their photograph album being shown, and and how they were full of hope and had just found themselves jobs in London, and then this.
This has had a huge impact on you because obviously you've put this anthology of poetry together. Why did this particular event have such an impact?
Well, I think it did on millions, quite literally millions of people in this country. I think the feeling, I don't want to substitute my views for others, but the feeling I get when I tell people about the book, like my hairdresser or somebody on the checkout in M&S or whatever, they want something to happen. They want, obviously, the public inquiry report, it to be done well. And that's not my sphere. But they're glad to lend a hand. The book will raise half the cover price going to this new charity, the Grenfell Foundation. People are glad, and of course the book tries to express many different responses in many different forms of poetry from people in all sorts of circumstances. There are 62 poets in the book. So it's a wide coverage, and we're trying to do our very best. I'm sure there will be things that people maybe either don't like or don't understand. Not all poems are easy. Some of them are very direct.
What have you learnt about putting this anthology together?
Well, I know why my friend Marion Williams didn't want to take it on. It was very hard work, but that's a small thing. That's not important. But I've also learned that people are wonderfully generous. The poets have been tremendously helpful themselves. We have all kinds of things organised. We have a chain of readings of Grenfell poetry, not just from the book, happening across the country after we have 2 launches in London. Both of them have given us free premises, one near Grenfell Tower, another one in Covent Garden. And then we have events coming up in Edinburgh, Doncaster, Newport, Newcastle, Birmingham, you name it. People want to come together, remember the event, raise money for the Grenfell Foundation, and express their feelings, which are many, from grief, anger, even a touch of shame.
Rip, thank you for coming in. It's been a pleasure to meet you. Poems for Grenfell Tower, published by Onslaught Press, is released on March the 30th, so just a couple of days away. Costs £10. Roughly half, as Rip says, will go to the new Grenfell Foundation at the suggestion of Grenfell United. Rip, thank you and good luck.